Hi, I'm Joanne Webb.
And I'm Sue Callahan.
We set up the foundation Impact Mental Health recently on the back of our podcast, Pods with Posh and Pool, which we started in August in 2019. And the podcast series was to disrupt the theory that anybody has a perfect life. And we share stories of inspiration to show people that no matter what others have gone through, that there is hope. And we share tools and techniques and strategies on how to get through life's suffering, how to face pain and adversity, but to still live with a heart filled with love and gratitude.
So we are both two single mums with 4 teenagers each. So we've got 8 teenagers, and we were really struck, having moved from the UK over 10 and 12 years ago, at the high suicide rates over here, particularly teenagers. And we wanted to put the message out there, nobody's got perfect lives. So we've interviewed a lot of people regarding resilience, overcoming, courage, vulnerability. What is it that people need when they're in mental distress to push through the circumstances? So we want to look at, we focus on self-harm and depression, anxiety, eating disorders, suicidal ideation. We actually want to look at the strategies those people need to overcome. We have both overcome in our own private lives as well.
Absolutely. And that was where the inspiration came to write our book, which is going to be published this month. It's called Hate Myself, Hate My Life, a teenage guide to finding self-confidence and inner love.
And we put that onto Kickstarter. We aimed to raise $12,000, and we did that within 32 days. The feedback was remarkable. People are very keen to get the book into schools. Parents want to get hold of it, and they want to access it for their teenagers as well. So the 6 topics we cover are resilience, boundary setting, finding self-love, coping mechanisms, healthy relationships, and communication. They are now the skills we want to put into a course to take into schools, and an online course for everyone to access. Resilience-based education and finding self-love. How do we do that? How do we empower those people that are in mental distress to move forward and rebuild their lives?
And that's really why we're applying for this grant, because we've worked tirelessly for over a year now. We are not taking an income just yet. We have obviously raised the money to get the book out there, which is fantastic, and it will be available this month. And what we want to do is we want to take that book with us, and we want to tour around New Zealand. We want to go into schools. We want to talk to the heart of teenagers. And we do that by actually sharing our stories as well. You know, I was a teenager once. I had an abortion age 14, and I lived with depression for 20 years, and I understand the stigmas that are attached to that. And we see all of these beautiful teenagers out there self-diagnosing. You know, they brandish these words around like, oh, such and such has got bipolar, or oh, whatever. But we really want to go in, and we really want to target the myth that people who are suicidal, or people who have depression, or people openly talk about it, are attention seeking. And you know, that's heartbreaking, because what we actually really want is we want to teach people how to be vulnerable, that it's okay to talk about your feelings, and how to show them how once they've got self-love and self-acceptance, that they are then going to be whole people who then can go out and help others and raise the vibrations and share that kindness.
And our life experience is such that we've both worked in schools. I lived in boarding schools for 15 years, raising teenagers, hundreds of teenagers. We've both worked coaching sport. I've worked in prisons. Jo has also got her own company, The Happiness Hustler, and I've got my own company, the Teenage Toolbox, working with young people and coaching them, and coaching parents too. Through our own journey, walking the walk, Jo had an abortion at a young age and has suffered an abusive relationship like myself. I had my 4 children abducted 17 years ago, and we've put a package together to address the shame that we carried. What did we need when we carried shame? What did we need when we couldn't forgive, when we carried bitterness and hatred? So there's many topics that we cover within our 6 subjects, and we've broken it down into simple, easy topics. And our podcast, we release weekly. We've released over 100 podcasts in the last year. We blog on Facebook and social media, and we also, once a week, talk about a topic like shame, forgiveness, how do you find self-love? But it's always, how do we actually do it, rather than talking about it? What are the tools and strategies and techniques we can present?
And what we really would like the budget for is we would really like to put together a short video to inspire teenagers and parents alike and caregivers when we go out there on tour and when we are talking to them. Because it's all well and good 2 middle-aged women standing on stage, and you know, we know that we can work to the heart of teenagers. We've done it, we've got a track record, so we're confident in that. But what we'd really like is we'd like a big movie screen behind us showing, you know, we've got the most remarkable podcast guest. Lives over in Australia. He lost both of his limbs, he does not live with depression. He does not live in anxiety. He chooses to live in the moment. He chooses to ask the questions, what can I do now, rather than why did this happen to me? And people like that are huge inspiration. But equally, there's other people who have lived with really awful mental disorders, and we want to show these teens that there is hope, that you don't have to live like that, and there are ways that we can all help ourselves and help others. So we want this movie to be made that we can show clips here and there while we're on tour, and to keep them engaged.
And Kwa is an incredible inspiration because he actually runs his own gym. As a double amputee, he runs a gym. Mark Mandino runs Adventure Works in Auckland, an outdoor education program. He is a quadriplegic, having had a surf accident in 2015. Jane Weeks lost her triplets in the Doha shopping mall fire and went on to have 3 more children. How do you recover? What does it take to develop resilience? Resilience is something not that you're born with, but you can learn, you can be empowered with tools again and techniques, and these are what we want to put out there.
And go back to our book, you know, when we understand teenagers won't necessarily just want to read a book, but our book is going to be beautiful. It's beautifully illustrated. It talks to the heart of them. And we have got a beautiful backing from a psychologist over in Australia called Ann-Carrad Candlin, and she writes, "Hate Myself, Hate My Life is a book for the moment. As our communities have been varying states of sheltering, our teenagers have really been doing it tough. Teenagers are amazing beings, and they have a way of looking at the world in a different way. Unfortunately though, our teenagers, at a time when their brains are most vulnerable, are bombarded with voices that are anything but helpful. This is where Hate Myself, Hate My Life is so valuable. Joe and Sue have managed to articulate their delight with teens in a way that speaks directly to them. They have found a way to be blunt without being judgmental, and to offer ideas and solutions without being superior. This book is easy to pick up and dip in and out of, which is exactly what our teenagers like and need. It offers words of wisdom and lets our teenagers know that they are with them and for them. As a psychologist and a parent of teens, this is a book that will be well used." And that just fills our heart with joy, because that's exactly why we wrote the book, because we do know we have that connection with teenagers, even though we're a bit old. And you know, it's just the backing that we needed, and the confidence for us as well to go out there and really talk. But I think we really want to get this online course up and running as well, and the money will really help go towards that. We will put a budget together, and that will be in the paperwork. But if we can get an online course for teenagers and for adults to turn to, so they've got the book, they can read the information, we can be there talking to them, but they need some backup after that. They need some further tools. So if they've got some online resources to go to, that we can kind of handhold them every step of the way on their journey to finding self-love and building resilience.
So our planned audience is teenagers and parents and adults, and we, as a result of publishing the book, which we hope is out within about a week to 2 weeks, we are planning events in the evenings to speak to parents with bookings on Eventbrite, events for schools next year where we speak to year 9s and year 10s, and we're looking for funding separately to get books into schools as well. So we give each one of those teenagers one of the books, which actually has exercises in it. But we want to translate that to online courses, and we want to translate that into work that goes with it, with a film that has impacts. It's not just Joe and I speaking on stage. And in the same way, our book is 6 chapters, but very much dip in, dip out. The online course will be 6 sessions over a 6-week period, but parents and teens can also dip in and dip out, so it's not formulaic at all, but they could take a section which is boundary setting or healthy communication and actually work on that for a period of a week, or for as long as they want before they start the next section. So it's not rigid at all, but it's very free-flowing, as is per the book as well, with exercises for them to actually work on and implement in their life and practice and rehearse.